Yes. So we were discussing the Swiggy customer story. So I was saying one problem that Swiggy faced in particular was daily refresh. Now, when you're working in Excel, there is no method for you to automate the refresh process. Someone still has to download the data, put it in a folder, come right click refresh. So it becomes very time consuming. Now, with the BI tool, the refresh becomes faster, but remember that anything that a BI tool offers has a lot of cost attached to it. For example, Power BI on the free version gives you 2 refreshes a day. It can go up to 48 refreshes, but you have to pay. So there are different packages. Similarly, for us at DTDC, what used to happen was, since I was in the sales analytics team, if I wanted to look at data of consignments that were booked till yesterday, shipments or parcels that were collected and booked till yesterday, and I wanted to look at the revenue for that, I would have to wait till 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning to look at previous day data. उसके पहले डेटा रिफ्रेश होके नहीं आता था. अब the reason being because that it could have been faster if the organization would have paid for a faster refresh or more refreshes in a day, but it was not required. So in some cases, it might be required. In case of Swiggy, which is a food delivery platform, they obviously want the data to be as real time as possible, right? So because if the data is delayed, it can lead to poor stakeholder experience. Basically, अगर आपको पता नहीं कि कल तक के numbers क्या हैं, तो आपको आज का action plan नहीं पता है, right? तो it has an impact on the business decision making, etc. ठीक है? To poor stakeholder experience for deriving insights and using current data to make decisions. Then Swiggy grew. ठीक है, तो स्विगी का मेन चैलेंज क्या था? दे grew in volumes and all, so they had a lot of customers onboarded, a lot of orders being coming. So 2017 is when they started with the evaluation of the BI tool. Now unka major challenge was handle the growth and scalability to drive data driven culture. Okay, when I say growth and scalability, it again refers to data, the amount of volume of data that you're dealing with. Okay, then to come to a BI tool like Power BI or Tableau, किसी भी tool में ClickSense है, ThoughtSpot है. So there is a, let me, Gartner BI quadrant. There is a company called Gartner जो हर साल एक वो निकालती है, एक क्वाड्रेंट निकालती है जिसमें वो कंपनीज को या अलग अलग BI टूल्स को मार्क करती है on different quadrants. ठीक है, so RBI has been the leader in the leader category for last 3-4 years, right? And then there is Tableau, then there is Click, then there is Google Analytics, Oracle, ThoughtSpot, SAP, Pyramid, IBM, Spotfire. So in terms of BI tools, there are a lot of tools available that are, in the top 10, top 20, top 30. So Swiggy wanted something where they can look at a tool that can handle massive volume. Okay. Then you come to the next part, which is developing a strong data pipeline. What this basically means is that how the data will flow. For example, if data is coming in, so Zomato, Swiggy, these companies have 2 apps. एक उनका ऐप होता है जो उनके vendors या restaurant partners use करते हैं, एक customers use करते हैं, ठीक है? So all of this data of how the app will capture the data, how the data will come in, how the data will be stored, how will it be processed into a dashboard, how will it be visualized, how will it be analyzed. That is basically data pipeline, how your data will flow from the first stage to the very last stage, right? So now they had multiple sources, and at an organization level, there can be multiple sources. Okay. So what are sources of data were they using? Snowflake, Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud service, SQL Server, MySQL Server, Excel files, Presto DB. It is a type of cloud database. Okay. Aggregated tables are used for Power BI datasets to create measures and dimensions for visuals and reports. So ये सारे sources है. यहाँ से once they retrieve data, then they're able to consolidate into single tables, connect those individual tables, and then create measures is nothing but calculations and dimension for visuals and reports. Okay. Now, why would a company like Swiggy, which has sources like, cloud plus SQL Server, why would they have, or why would they need to have Excel as a source? Can anyone tell me? A company that is storing, a company like Swiggy, where they have data coming in through APIs, etc., right? Why would they, or in what circumstances or what situations would they need to rely on Excel? Anyone?
The local level teams would be aggregating their data in Excel only. So even though the data from APIs would be first taken to Excel at the local level, and at the centralized level, they will further process.
Fair. But when you say local level, it is not data around customers and all. It can be some other data. For example,
City level.
city level.
Yeah.
For example, in sales, one file or one source is the target file. क्योंकि टारगेट क्या है, हमेशा चेंज होता रहता है. टारगेट एक बार साल के स्टार्ट में फ्रीज होने के बावजूद देयर माइट बी सम माइनर चेंजेस. कोई दो रीजन को मर्ज कर दिया, बिजनेस कम आने वाला है, पता है अगले क्वार्टर में, तो टू रीजन को मर्ज कर दिया, टारगेट को थोड़ा कम कर दिया. सो टारगेट ऐसा फाइल होता है या ऐसे नंबर्स होते हैं दैट कैन नॉट बी प्लग्ड इनटू द सिस्टम, राइट? बिकॉज दे आर, even if they're fixed at the start of the year, they still have to be fetched through an Excel file. Okay? That is one example. And like you mentioned, there might be other categories or source, other types of data that aggregate at a region, city, zone level that might be required to put into a BI tool like Power BI. Okay? Now, there is one diagram here. We have to focus on the first part for now. So connectivity and data sources. There can be cloud and on-premise sources. There is Snowflake, PrestoDB, MySQL, and Excel file. Okay? Generally, what happens is once you have the data coming in, the data will be converted into tables. You will model, you will create measures and dimensions, then you will build the report, and then you will set up row level security. Row level security is nothing but defining what individual can access what level of data. For example, if I am from the north zone, I should not be able to see data from the south zone, the east zone, or the west zone. Right? That is what row level security means. Literally hiding rows. तो मेरे पास अगर एक डेटा है जिसमें रीजन है नॉर्थ साउथ ईस्ट वेस्ट, तो जो नॉर्थ का बंदा है वो सिर्फ नॉर्थ के रोज देख पाएगा, मतलब नॉर्थ के रोज जहां विजुअल्स में रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहे हैं वो वही देख पाएगा. तो एट अ आईडी लेवल, व्हिच इज अ ईमेल आईडी, यूजर आईडी लेवल, आई कैन सेट दैट. दैट इज कॉल्ड रो लेवल सिक्योरिटी. उसके बाद then you come towards something called as optimization. So once you complete your dashboard and all, then you come towards optimization कि अब dashboard हमने बना लिया है. Now how can we fasten the process? How can we fasten the refresh? How can we improve or write better formulas? So you have multiple tools for that, and then you come to publishing the dashboard where users can access it. Right? That is the general workflow. Now, something additional that is nice here is there are different screenshots of dashboards that Swiggy was using. The numbers obviously might be fictitious, but it is a fairly good representation of what a dashboard looks like. So you have slicers at the top, right? Then you have city level trend, and on the right hand side you have hourly trend. Then you have a simple table. A lot of cases we feel that a table is not a visual, but as you can see, a lot of times you literally need to see a table to look at granular data. अब इतना granular data जो है, I cannot put it in a single chart. I'll have to create so many charts. So a lot of times firstly, table is a visual, and in a lot of cases, it has a lot of use case as well. In terms of the visuals, in the other two dashboards also, you will see that visuals जो है ना बहुत complicated नहीं है. इस dashboard में भी, and some other examples also that I show you over the course of the next 3-4 days. This is a simple clustered column chart. Okay, the second that you will see again, these two are the similar type of charts, which is a line and column and line combined. The column talks of one and the line talks of some other axis. Okay. So यहाँ पे the line is talking about some dynamic metric. The metric is calculated here, percentage of POP orders, right? And at the top, they have multiple slices. They have a refresh date. Similarly, there's another dashboard, the traffic conversion dashboard. जिसमें you have on the left, you have a lot of KPI cards. Okay. Then again, you have, this is a stacked column chart. This is a stacked column chart. Stack column में basically values एक के ऊपर एक stack होती है. Clustered में the values are individual columns. In a stack, they are stacked on top of one another. These are line charts, and again these are stacked column charts. Right? So again, nothing fairly complex. This one is a tree map. These can be created in Excel also, but we'll see how to do them in Power BI. Right? So this is just one story that I want to take you through before we start working. So you have some context as to why a company uses a tool like Power BI if you did not have that earlier. And even today, Microsoft claims this. I'm not sure. I don't know if there are any other numbers to validate, but Microsoft claims that 90% of Fortune 500 companies use Power BI, right? So, Abhi, what I'll do is I'll share my screen. I hope you have downloaded all the files, and we will start working on the first example for today, which is going to be in Power Query, where we will model our data, right? So in the main folder, there is a folder called model. Okay. When you open that folder, first you have a look at my screen. I will show you a few steps, and then you can perform the steps accordingly. Sorry. So I have two files here. I have category and discount. Okay. The category file is nothing but a category subcategory mapping data. Okay. This will come from individual Excel file, which is the one that we are seeing here. So I have category data and I have subcategory. It's just a mapping table. Then I have a discount table here, which again is nothing but which region will get discount basis what order priority. Okay. So which region will get a discount? So if the market is EMEA and the order priority is medium, they will get a 15% discount. So we have to load this table also into Power BI. Then I have two separate tables here. I have sales current and I have sales historical. Sales current has data only for 2014 and sales historical has data only for has data for 3 years. So 11, 12 and 13. Okay. Also, you will see that like in Excel where you had PPT to assist you in terms of notes, here also you have all of that. So the first few sessions will be on today and tomorrow maybe will be on Power Query, which is the modeling bit, data cleaning bit, data preparation bit. Then we will come towards visual and then we will do few additional exercises, some custom examples and all. Okay. So this Power BI notes folder, you want to keep it open during the session, you can. Otherwise, you can have a look at it later. There are multiple sections in this. हमें जो अभी section पे focus करना, that is Power Query वाला. ठीक है. So now Power Query is available in Excel 2016 onwards. ठीक है. Power BI में it is available by default. तो अगर आपके पास 2016 से पुराना वर्जन है Excel का, आपके Excel में Power Query नहीं होगा, but Power BI में आपको Power Query मिल जाएगा. Secondly, whatever we do in Power Query in Power BI today and tomorrow, the same can be replicated in Excel. The only difference is in Power BI, the output comes in Power BI. In Excel, the output comes in the form of an Excel table. We are working with this problem statement. Sales current has data for 1 year, sales historical has data for 3 years. Then I have a category file that I showed you and a discount file that I showed you. Right? Now, we will not be connecting to an online source like a SQL server and all, but I'll take you through the documentation for that. Okay. But for now, we'll start with this example. Now, the idea here is that why would I store data in two separate folders also? Why not one folder? Again, to give an example from my previous experience, at a logistics company, for example, there are consignments that are booked. Every day, there are thousands and lakhs of consignments that are booked. And I have a lot of data that is getting captured. Now, I will not store all the data for the last 10 years into a single, in my current cloud source. Because firstly, storing the data occupies a lot of space in terms of actual storage. And there is a heavy cost also. So, we do something called archive the data. यानी मुझे पिछले 3 साल का डेटा चाहिए, जो भी मुझे एनालिसिस पैरालिसिस करना है उसके लिए, उसके पहले का जितना भी डेटा है, I want to archive it, store it. I don't want to create summaries, create dashboards out of it. It just has to be stored in as a table in a database. So it will occupy less space. It will not be used in anything that is recent or relevant. Okay? So we archive data. So the logic here is that you're looking at data for current year and you have archival data, which is sales historical folder, from where you want to retrieve or append additional information. Additionally, what we will also be doing is we will be combining files from a folder, which is a feature that Power Query offers. तो अगर आपके पास मल्टीपल एक्सेल फाइल्स हैं, अभी हम 3 के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, अगर आपके पास 300 भी एक्सेल फाइल्स है, प्रोसेस सेम होगा. तो देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज अपेंड, यानी फाइल्स को एक के नीचे एक स्टैक करना. नाउ द assumption here is that these 3 files have the same column headings. Okay, just to show you, this is the sales historical file 11, 12, 13. There is the same template in all the files. Now in Power Query, when I want to combine data from multiple files, the column heading has to be same. For example, if I have country over here with a capital C, in the other file which I want to append below this, append का मतलब है data को vertically stack करना, एक के नीचे एक, adding more rows. If the other file has country with a lowercase c, it is not going to be the same. Okay, so the column spelling and the column case has to be exactly same. जब आप data को एक के नीचे एक map करना चाहते हो, अगर कॉलम स्पेलिंग में या कॉलम की केस में कुछ भी डिफरेंस होगा, Power Query will not be able to understand. The column sequence can be here and there. For example, country can be the first column in one table, it can be the last column in another table. Power Query will be able to identify that the country column in one table, in table 1 and table 2 is the same. But if the case and spelling is not same, it will not be able to recognize the column and it will create additional columns, country 1, country 2, right? So these are the columns that we work with. It's a similar data that we had used in pivot table, which is global superstore orders. So I have row ID, order ID, order date, ship date, customer name, segment, city, geographic data. Then I have market region, category, subcategory, product ID, sales quantity, COGS, and shipping cost. Then the sales current folder has similar data, but there is a difference in terms of how the columns are captured. For example, in sales historical, you will see that city, state, and country are 3 separate columns. In sales current, you will see that it is one single column. So I will not be able to combine this data unless I split this into 3 separate columns. So we'll see how to do that. Then you will also notice that in sales historical, order ID, this one, it has 3 parts, right? There are 2 hyphens in all of these. So it has 3 parts. It is in one single column. And in the sales current folder, which has data for 2014, order ID is in 3 separate columns. So I'll have to combine these columns, right? Then I have the subcategory mapped with the category. Then I have the discount based on order priority and market, which you've already seen, right? Now, what we want to do is we want to create a dashboard, but after cleaning the data, right? So the first thing that we'll have to do is combine all the data into a single table. So we have data for 3 years in 3 different files, 3 different files for 3 different years in a single folder, and current year data is in a single separate folder, which is sales current data for 2014. The marketing team has given you a separate data set for category, subcategory mapping, and discount team has given you one data set for order priority and market basis discount, right? We also have to calculate the average dispatch time, यानी order book होने से ship होने तक कितना time लगा है. We want to create one single table for this, so we'll be doing that now. Okay. Now everything that I will help you do today and tomorrow and over the next 5 days, all screenshots are given here. ठीक है? तो अगर आपको बाद में जाके practice करना है, you will have the recording and you will have the notes as well. There is nothing that is missing from these notes. There is enough for you to come back and understand. ठीक है? So please open Power BI now. Yeah. And once you open Power BI, just want to confirm if you have set up all the instructions like I had shared in the PowerPoint earlier. Okay? If you have not done that, please do it. When you open Power BI for the first time, please have a look at my screen. It will show you this kind of a view. आपको सबसे पहला चूज करना है, which is blank report. Blank report आप चूज करोगे तो ये आपके सामने विंडो ओपन होगा. इस विंडो पे आ जाइए. I'll wait for 2 minutes for Power BI to open for all of you. And then we'll start with the example. If you have any questions, if you want me to repeat something, do let me know. Okay. Perfect. Now, the first thing I want to do here is connect to the sales historical folder. अब sales historical में 3 files हैं. तो सबसे पहले मैं यहाँ आके folder का path जो है वो copy कर लेता हूँ. एक चीज का ध्यान रखना है आपको. Once you download this folder from the drive link, it cannot be a zipped folder. You cannot connect to a zipped folder in Power BI. You will have to extract the folder. तो आप ensure कीजिए बाहर का main folder और अंदर के folder में से कुछ भी zipped folder नहीं होना चाहिए. All of it has to be an extracted folder. I will just copy the path for the sales historical folder which has 3 files. तो उसका path मैंने copy कर लिया है. अब मैं आता हूँ Power BI में. ठीक है? अब आप मेरी screen पे आइए please. First have a look at the example and then you do it. ठीक है? We'll take it step by step. So when I want to upload or load data into Power BI, I will come to this get data option and I can choose whatever source I want. Okay. It can be an Excel file, it can be SQL Server, analysis services, CSV file, data from web, or I want to not load anything, just open a blank Power Query window. I will come to more here. So more will allow me to see multiple other options. Now, when I come to more, I have certain options under the file category, certain options under database category, right? Then I have Microsoft Fabric, Power Platform. I have Azure, I have online services. So I have a lot of other connectors available. Power BI, Tableau, all these tools, they offer a lot of connectors. Okay? हमारे केस में अभी सिर्फ रेलेवेंट है फोल्डर और एक्सेल फाइल जिसके साथ हम काम करेंगे. तो आई विल कम टू द फाइल ऑप्शन and I will click on the folder option. One more time, I'm showing you this feature. So under home, you will come to get data. In get data, you will come to more. Once you come to more, you will come to file. You will click on the folder option and choose connect. Now here you can also go and browse, but if you've saved it somewhere inside, it will take you some time to browse. So you can just copy the folder path and paste it. When you paste the folder path, it cannot have double quotes at the start at the end. कभी-कभी जब आप folder path copy करते हो, for example, if you right click and choose this option, Control Shift C, copy as path, तो उसमें क्या होता है, वो डबल कोट्स डालता है at the start and at the end. So इसमें डबल कोट्स हटा दीजिएगा. Double quotes will not be acceptable here. Okay, it just has to be the path. Okay, it just has to be this path. Once you put in the path, you'll press OK. A new window will open. You can stay here for now. Alhamdulillah. A new window will open. You can stay here for now. ठीक है, दिस इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप. इसके बाद 2-3 और स्टेप्स हैं. उसके बाद हमारा पावर क्वेरी ओपन होगा. तो अभी जो हमने विंडो यूज किया है, फीचर यूज किया है, which is combine data from folder or get data from folder. The idea is to consolidate data from multiple Excel files in a single folder. अच्छा, something that you will have to keep in mind, ये notes पे भी mentioned है हमारे अलग-अलग instances पे. तो एक चीज मैंने आपको बताई कि जो column headings है फाइल में, they have to be same. So the case has to be same. There cannot be any additional character like a space, and the spelling obviously has to match. The other thing is, if I have multiple Excel files in a single folder, I can consolidate them. But अगर कुछ Excel है, कुछ CSV है, मैं combine नहीं कर सकता हूँ. तो जो consolidation आपको करना है files का, the file extension has to be same. If it is CSV, all files have to be CSV. If it is PDF, all of them have to be PDF. If it is Excel, all of them have to be Excel. So the file extension has to be same. Otherwise, Power Query doesn't understand, right? So same file extension वाले files को आप एक folder से consolidate कर सकते हो. Once you reach this point, what I want you to do next is, यहाँ पे cancel will obviously close this. Transform data क्या करता है? This will, when you click on transform data, it will take you to Power Query, right? It will not combine the data. It will take 3 separate tables into Power Query, which I don't want. लोड करूंगा मैं तो डायरेक्टली Power BI में 3 सेपरेट टेबल्स आएंगे. मुझे एक टेबल बनाना है कंसोलिडेटेड, सो आई विल नॉट यूज लोड एज वेल. यहाँ पे कंबाइन का ऑप्शन है. कंबाइन में देयर इज अ स्मॉल ड्रॉप डाउन हियर एंड you will have to choose this option called combine and transform data. This will append का मतलब है stack values one below the other. This will append data from the 3 files into a single file or a single table and open Power Query. It will not open Power Query. There's one more step in between here, but you have to choose this option, combine and transform data. Click on the small drop down and choose combine and transform data. Choose combine and transform data. ठीक है. In case you feel you're a few steps behind, please let me know. Okay. Happy to repeat the example as well. Slightly under the weather, so just excuse the disturbances. When you choose combine, this kind of a view will come. Once you reach this point, let me know and we'll continue. Sure. So you will go to get data, you will go to more, you will go to file, and you will go to the folder option. Then you will press connect. Then the folder path window will open. You will just put your folder path, and after you put your folder path, you will press OK. Once you do that, this new window will open. Here at the bottom, you have 4 options. Transform will directly take you into Power Query, but will not combine your tables. आपके पास 3 Excel फाइल हैं, उनको 3 अलग-अलग टेबल में डालेगा वो. मुझे एक consolidated table चाहिए. So transform will take you to Power Query, but will not consolidate. Load will take you directly to Power BI. and will load 3 tables in Power BI, which is also not what I want. Under the combine button, the green button here, there is a small drop down. You have to click on that drop down and choose combine and transform data. You have to choose combine and transform data. When you do that, one more new window will open. Once you come on this window, अगर आपने यहाँ तक नहीं आया, एक बार मेरी स्क्रीन पे आके देख लीजिए. Now, यहाँ पे there are certain things that you need to take care of. So I'll explain them. Please have a look. Okay. Now, when you come to this window, it is asking you for something called a sample file. What this means is that when I'm combining data from multiple files, rather than a single folder, there might be some instances, like for the example that we are doing right now, the case study, all the files have the same number of columns, right? But there might, in the real world, there might be some situations where the column headings are not matching. Some files have an additional column. Some files have different, so two files have different set of columns. Some are matching, some are mismatching. One file has 15 columns, the other file has 10 columns. There can be various combinations for this, right? So you have to give a sample file. Sample file is the first file basis which the consolidation or the append will happen, right? So हमारे case में it does not make a difference what we choose as a sample file. So whatever is the first file in the folder will be picked up as the sample file. अगर आपको कोई specific file को sample file बनाना है, आप बना सकते हो. अगर ऐसा है कि you have data coming from different files, but each file has some additional column here and there, so then you will have to create a new file which only has the correct column headings from all the folders and then use that as the sample file, right? So that is something that you will have to do. So sample file abhi ke liye we will keep as first file only. Then there is something called a parameter. Now in our case study, we have assumed that all the sheets, and it is the case also that all the sheets in all the 3 Excel files have the same name, sales. तीनों Excel file 12, 13, 11, 12, 13 में एक ही शीट है जिसका नाम सेल्स है. शीट का नाम अलग होगा तो प्रोसेस अलग होता है. तो पावर क्वेरी में हर माइनर वेरिएशन के लिए द प्रोसेस चेंजेस स्लाइटली. सिंस वी आर लर्निंग इट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम, वी आर फॉलोइंग अ वेरी आइडियलिस्टिक सिनेरियो. कुछ अलग अलग वेरिएशन वाले एग्जांपल भी मैं आपको कराऊंगा टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द प्रोग्राम. नाउ व्हाट इज अ पैरामीटर? पैरामीटर इज नथिंग बट आपने फाइल चूज कर ली, अब उस सैंपल फाइल से कहां से डेटा लाना है. हमारे केस में एक ही शीट है सेल्स, मैं उसको चूज करूंगा, फाइल सिलेक्ट हो जाएगी, यहाँ डेटा का प्रीव्यू दिखेगा, and then I simply have to come and click on OK. Sales is the name of the sheet in my Excel file, which is the file that I'm referring to 20, which first file कौन सी है? 2011 by default. तो यहाँ पे आपको दिखेगा कि ये जो प्रीव्यू भी आ रहा है वो सिर्फ 2011 फाइल का प्रीव्यू आ रहा है. आप अगर ऑडिट देखोगे, ठीक है, अभी भी डेटा कंसोलिडेट नहीं हुआ है. मैंने मेरा सैंपल फाइल स्पेसिफाई कर दिया कि इस फाइल में जितने कॉलम्स है बाकी सारे फाइल में भी यही कॉलम्स है, तो आपको वो पिक करना है. आई एम इंस्ट्रक्टिंग Power Query, and from this file, the sheet that I'm picking up is sales, right? Like I said, if the sheet name is different, the process is different. Consolidate data from multiple sheets, the process is different. What we are doing is, I have a folder with multiple files. I want to append the files one below the other. The files have same column headings. I want to stack the data one below the other. You will simply press OK. Once you do that, Power Query will open on your screen. If it doesn't open, just press Alt Tab. वो कभी-कभी पीछे चला जाता है. So if you don't see Power Query, just press Alt Tab. वो कभी-कभी पीछे की तरफ, like it becomes the background. Just press Alt Tab to come to Power Query. This is what Power Query looks like.
The Power BI page, I'm still getting a message, error message. There are pending changes in your queries that
हाँ,
haven't
you
been
can ignore
applied.
that. हाँ, you can ignore
Ignore.
that.
Start
वो जब
changes.
भी you will not choose discard or you will not click on anything.
Okay,
Basically,
just
when
ignore
Power
it.
Query is open, we will make multiple changes to this. So Power BI will keep on showing this to you. You can ignore it. It is there in the notes also, I think. हाँ, ये वाला जो है ना, it might be of a different color now. So till the Power Query window is open, the yellow bar appears. You can ignore it. ठीक है. आपको अप्लाई भी नहीं करना, डिस्कार्ड भी नहीं करना है. Perfect. Now, when Power Query opens up, I'll just take you through the Power Query interface एक बार. ठीक है, एक बार आप ध्यान दीजिए. So Power Query's interface again similar to what Excel has, but it is a very different tool. So the idea or the logic behind creating Power Query was that a non-technical user should be able to clean and transform and model data effectively without having to write any piece of code. Now, every step that we do in Power Query will be translated into a language called M code. So the formula language in Power Query is M. The formula language in Power BI is DAX. Very different. On the left hand side, we have something called as a queries pane. इसमें जो जो हमारे टेबल्स है वो हमें विजिबल होते हैं. अभी आपके पास डिफॉल्ट जो टेबल दिख रहा होगा सेल्स हिस्टोरिकल होगा, बिकॉज वो फोल्डर का नाम था, उस टेबल का नाम भी वही बनाया है. I have chosen the option earlier called combine and transform. So my data is already combined. I will show you how to validate that also. These additional other folders that you see here in tables, I will explain them what they are later. You can minimize and maximize this pane as per your requirement. Okay. You can minimize it from here and you can maximize the pane from here. Now, on the right hand side, you have something called as query settings. I can change the name of my table from here. जो मेरी query है, मेरा table है. I can right click and rename also, or I can change the name from here as well. Then I have something called as applied steps. Now, whatever you have done so far has been recorded here. So tomorrow, if 10 more files get added to my folder, all I have to do is come and click on refresh. That's it. Because the process is same. Process क्या है? सबसे पहले source decide होता है. Source में क्या है? मेरा folder path. फिर it will check if there are any hidden files or no. Then it will invoke a custom function. Okay. Here, what does invoke custom function mean? That it is picking up data from the. One second. We come to the third step. So again, it is translating everything into code. Okay. It is picking up data from a query called transform file. Transform file कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. Transform file में मेरा parameter है. मेरा parameter क्या है? Sheet name. Sheet name क्या था? Sales. तो उसने फिर उस sheet से डेटा को यहाँ रिट्रीव कर लिया. 2011 का डेटा आपको दिखेगा यहाँ पे सिर्फ, nothing else. Right? You will see only data for 2011 in the transform sample file. The transform file is a function that retrieves the data from the sample file that you select. हमारे केस में it is the first file that we had chosen. You can choose any other file as well if there is a lot of mismatch in your data. Then we come back to the sales historical query. Then उसके बाद it is renaming the columns, removing unnecessary columns, and then it is just simply expanding. So once it has the 3 tables here, it is expanding the data and you have the data in one single table. ठीक है, इसको और डिटेल में बाद में एक्सप्लेन करूंगा. अभी के लिए यू हैव जस्ट हैव टू नो कि आप जब इंटरफेस पे काम करते हो पावर क्वेरी के, बैकएंड में कोड लिखा जा रहा है. ठीक है, कोड बड़ा सिंपल होता है, नथिंग वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम अ हाई लेवल व्यू. Obviously, if you want to understand what table dot transform column types is, you will have to understand the M code. But we are not focusing on understanding M code. Everything that you will need to do as part of transformation in Power Query can happen from the interface itself. Right? So generally, the first step is always going to be source, because आप data कहीं से retrieve कर रहे हो. The source can be an Excel file, the source can be a CSV, online source. The source can be another query as well. Right? Now, when you come to the very last step, which is change type, what happens in Power Query is, you will notice one difference. जो headers हैं उनका अलग position है. आपके row 1 से data start होता है, row 1 से header start नहीं होते. पावर क्वेरी में हेडर्स का एक अलग पोजीशन है. हेडर के लेफ्ट पे आपको ये टेक्स्ट दिखेगा, सिंबल दिखेंगे. इसका मतलब है डेटा टाइप क्या है कॉलम का. इन एक्सेल आई कैन हैव वन कॉलम विथ डेट, टाइम, टेक्स्ट, नंबर. एक ही कॉलम में अलग अलग सेल में वैल्यू हो सकती है. पावर क्वेरी में अलाउड नहीं है. आइडियली किसी भी डेटाबेस में एक कॉलम का एक ही डेटा टाइप होना चाहिए. तो अगर मेरे पास एक कॉलम में डेट है तो मेरे पास सिर्फ डेट है. अगर इस कॉलम में कोई नंबर होगा तो एरर दिखाएगा, बिकॉज उसको डेट अगर समझ नहीं आएगी. So one column can have only one data type. If you want to change the data type of some column, you can click on this symbol here to the left of the column heading and you can change the data type. By default, there is a setting where Power Query automatically, after any transformation, which is adding of a column, deleting of a column, deletion of a few rows, it will automatically try to identify the type of the column. If you wanted to do it again after making some change, you can come to transform and you can say detect data type. तो डिटेक्ट डेटा टाइप क्या करेगा, ये कस्टम जो चेंज टाइप ऑप्शन है इसको रन करेगा एंड इट विल ऑटोमेटिकली लुक एट द वैल्यूज इन द कॉलम एंड डिसाइड व्हाट इज द डेटा टाइप ऑफ द कॉलम. कभी कभी आपको दिखेगा एबीसी 123 वाला सिंबल. इट मींस वो आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पा रहा है कि डेटा टाइप क्या है. तो उस केस में आपको मैन्युअली आइडेंटिफाई कराना पड़ेगा क्लिक करके, बिकॉज एन अनडिफाइंड कॉलम फॉर अ डेटा टाइप यू कैन नॉट लोड इट बैक इनटू पावर बीआई. लोड होने के बाद इट विल गिव यू एरर्स, यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू क्रिएट एनी विजुअल आउट ऑफ इट. So any column cannot have an undefined data type, which is the symbol ABC123. ठीक है, just ABC means text. आप ABC123 यहाँ से असाइन नहीं कर सकते हो. वो बाय डिफॉल्ट जब समझ नहीं आएगा उसको कि कॉलम का डेटा टाइप क्या है, in that case it is going to assign that. Okay, so if I want to move between columns, I can obviously scroll. I can choose a column heading. If I want to look at a list of all my columns, now this is a very cool feature. It is not available in Excel. ठीक है. And unlike Excel and Power BI where you have a zoom scroll bar bottom right corner पे, Power Query में नहीं है. तो Power Query का इंटरफेस ऐसे ही दिखता है, छोटा छोटा दूर दूर से. मैं जो zoom यूज कर रहा हूँ Windows plus Windows minus है, so that you are able to see my screen. If you want to see a list of all your columns, you can use a feature called View and Go to Columns. Now this feature is nothing but it shows you a list of all your columns. आप डबल क्लिक करोगे आपको कॉलम पे ले जाएगा. वेरी यूजफुल व्हेन यू डीलिंग विद लार्ज नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स. कंट्रोल जी प्रेस करेंगे, उसका शॉर्टकट है गो टू कॉलम का. ठीक है. So if I ask you to come to state, you can double click, it will bring you to state. Right. So when you're dealing with large number of columns, scrolling becomes very tedious. In Power Query, you can use Control G to open the go to column feature that will allow you to either search for a column, it's a wild character search, or it will allow you to select, double click, hover, scroll, whatever you want to do. Okay. So all of those options will be available to you. Farhan Siddiqui, I think he's in now. Okay. Right. So Control G allows you to look at the list of your columns. This is not a feature available in Excel. It is only available in Power Query. Okay. Now, what options are available in Power Query? We'll come to those in a second. But for you to, so I've just given you a brief intro of what Power Query is, what it does. To see if our data is actually consolidated, which is appended, we have one table with 3 years data. You can click on the source name drop down from here. Okay. And when you do that, you'll have to click on load more. Now, load more करने से data append नहीं हो रहा है. Data already append हो चुका है. लोड मोर क्यों करना पड़ता है, वो पावर क्वेरी का एक लिमिटेशन है. वो लिस्ट अगर एक कॉलम में मल्टीपल वैल्यूज है वो उनको दिखा नहीं पाता एक साथ. आपको लोड मोर पे क्लिक करना पड़ेगा तो आपको यहाँ पे 3 साल का डेटा दिख जाएगा. सोर्स नेम ड्रॉप डाउन, लोड मोर, एंड यू विल सी डेटा फॉर 3 years. You will see data for 3 years. You will see data for 3 years. Okay. So appending is done, which is combining. आपको बस फोल्डर का पाथ देना है, सैंपल फाइल चूज करना है और शीट सिलेक्ट करना है. If sample file, if files have different number of columns, process will slightly change. If the sheet name is different, process will slightly change. Okay. Those variations we'll cover towards the end. For now, we have taken an idealistic scenario and we'll build on top of it. right? Once you've done that, now what I want to do is I want to get data from the other file or the other folder, which is sales current. Okay. Now, when I want to come out of Power Query, I will have to come to home. I'll have to click on this drop down. When I choose apply, it only applies the changes from Power Query, whatever we have done so far in Power Query, which is combined data from a single folder. It will not close it and take it to Power BI. When you close it, it does not save it. It will close and take you to Power BI without saving what you have done in Power Query. If I want to close and apply, which is apply all the changes in Power Query and go to Power BI, I will choose the first one. So all of you go to home and choose the first option, close and apply. Come to home and choose the first option, close and apply. Close and apply. This will load this small screen, which will show that the data is currently loading, and it will once you close and apply Power Query, in Power BI also go to file and save your file, right? Because you'll be working on this. So just save your file and give it a name that you're able to follow through. It's 20th. Right? Perfect. Power BI's interface I'll cover later. Today the focus is going to be only on Power Query. Okay, perfect. Now, once you have also saved your file, I'll wait for a few minutes. Just give me a confirmation once you save your file, and then I'll move ahead with loading the second folder, which is sales current. Now, I want to load my second folder, which is sales current. So I'll copy the folder path. Now, even though this folder has only one file, if I decide tomorrow to make my current folder with 2 files or 3 files, I can simply add the file here and the data will be picked up. I'll give you an example later. I'll copy the folder path. I'll come back to Power BI, same process now. You'll go to get data, you'll go to more, and you'll go to folder. Because we are connecting to folder, the process will remain exactly the same. When we connect to Excel CSV, the process after setting the source slightly changes. I will click on connect. I will put my folder path in this dialog box. I will press OK. I've copied the sales current folder path. Right now, it only has one file, but like I mentioned, since I'm connecting to a folder, and even if it has one file today, tomorrow if multiple files are added, the process will automatically append that data. Again, I will come to combine and I will choose combine and transform data. If I don't do if I can simply transform also, but that will not combine my data. Right now, I only have one file. It might not make sense to use the step combine and transform data. But like I said, tomorrow if more files get added, and I have not used this step, I have only used transform, it will create individual tables which I don't want. I want one large consolidated table. So it is mandatory for you to click on combine and transform, mandatory as in part of the case study, to click on combine and transform, and this will again bring you back to Power Query, right? Sorry, it'll ask you for the sample file and all. So we've already discussed this, that the sample file can be a file that has the most variations in terms of all the data in terms of columns. You can choose the sheet, and once you choose the sheet, you can press OK, and this will open Power Query. Same process, nothing different. Same process, nothing different. And once you do that, Power Query will open. And in Power Query, in your queries tab, you will now see sales current as well. You'll see sales current as well. Right? Now, once you complete this step, we will have two tables or two queries rather, sales current and sales historical. We would then want to combine these two queries as well. So we'll do that step also. For those who've done this part where you have sales current also loaded, I would want you to look at both the tables, right? And the columns in each of these tables. You can go to one query, sales historical, look at the columns. You can take a screenshot if you want, and you can put it in a PowerPoint just to compare if the columns are same or not. Right? This is how I do it when I'm working on projects and all. And I have to see if the data in the tables is correct or not, or if they have the same number of columns. I simply come and I take a screenshot like this. Okay, that gives me a good view if the data in the tables is the same, how much variation is there, right? If the spelling case, what are the issues that might come up. तो मैं ऐसे करता हूँ और मैं कंपेयर करता हूँ. ठीक है, आप भी एक बार कंपेयर कर सकते हैं. मैंने आपके लिए स्क्रीन पे बना लिया है. This is from sales historical, this is from sales current. And if you can tell me if the column headings are same, can we directly go and append, or do we have to make some further changes? Can we directly append these files, or do we have to make certain changes?
There is just a change in sequence of the columns.
Sequence
Otherwise,
sequence is
the
irrelevant.
name and the font seems to be the same. So we
Okay.
can straight away go and append.
Okay. Now, can you look at this particular column in sales
Order
circle?
ID.
No, but there is one thing. Order ID part 1, 2, 3 is different.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so I'll have to consolidate this, because if I try to append this, what will happen is it will create 4 columns. Order ID एक अलग column होगा. Part 1, part 2, part 3 will be 3 separate columns. Similarly, here you will see that sales, city, state, country is one single column. And in my, let me just rename this. This is current. Yeah. In my sales historical, city, state, country is 3 separate files, 3 separate columns. So again, if I try to combine, it'll create 4 additional columns. So I will be left with 6 additional columns that are not relevant to my case. सबसे पहले तो हमें ये cleaning करनी है. Now, any small cleaning that you do, combining data, splitting columns into combining multiple columns, you are doing it because the data comes in a certain format from your whatever systems you're working with. Okay? So if you're able to automate it here, what happens is tomorrow, if more data comes in for new time periods, you just have to put it in the right location, and all this transformation that we've done happens automatically. सबसे पहले, you will ensure that you are on the sales current query. Okay. Then what you will do is you have to combine order ID part 1, part 2, part 3. Now the way to combine has to be exactly the same. So I want to follow same pattern. Okay, so I have one hyphen in between the 3 parts. I'll come back to sales current. And now I want to choose 3 columns to combine them. Now in Power Query, to choose columns, you can click on a column, press and hold Control, and then choose any other column that you want. इस तरीके से, ठीक है? Like this. You can press Control and choose whatever columns you want one by one. If you want to select multiple columns, यानी पहले और आखिरी column के बीच में जितने columns है, आपको अगर वो choose करना है, तो आप शिफ्ट प्रेस करके होल्ड करेंगे, order ID part 1 choose करेंगे, and then order ID part 3 पे click करेंगे, which will select all the columns in between. Here we only have one column in between, which is order ID part 2. Which is order ID part 2. Okay.
I think I got lost somewhere. I was not able to view this page. I'm able to see the combine page only.
Can you share your
I
screen?
selected the folder path. I entered the folder path and then
Just share your screen once. Share your screen once.
is my screen visible?
You're visible, but
I
have you
came up to this page.
no, did you not save your file?
I did save that file by the name 20.
Can you just open
December
that file
20.
again? Just close this window.
File.
Are you on the web? Are you on web version?
Desktop.
Desktop बोलिए ना, हाँ, just open that file again. You'll have to reshare your screen because I can only see the. Just share your entire screen for a few seconds. Then I'll help you. Others, I wanted to choose order ID part 1, part 2, part 3. You can individually press Control and select the columns, or you can choose the first column, press and hold Shift and select the last column, and anything in between will be chosen. So you will have order ID part 1, part 2, part 3 selected. After that, you can right click on any one of the column heading. जो तीनों columns selected हैं, उसमें से किसी एक पर भी आप right click कीजिए. And you will see an option called merge columns. Yes. Okay, so just go to get data again. Choose the folder option. Under file. Yeah, choose the folder option. Put in the path for sales current. Click on the combine drop down and choose combine and transform data. When you choose combine and load, it directly brings you to Power Query. Since we have to do further transformation, it brings you to Power BI when you choose combine and load. Since you want to do further transformation, we are doing combine and transform data. Click on the sales sheet and press OK. This will bring you to Power Query. Just press Alt tab. वो पीछे की तरफ खुलना. It's opened. ठीक है. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, everyone, like I just mentioned, you will choose order ID part 1, part 2, and part 3 either by pressing Control and selecting the individual columns, or pressing Shift, choosing the first and the third column, and the one in between will get automatically selected. You will then right click on any one of these columns. You will then right click on any one of these columns and you will choose this feature called merge columns. When you choose this feature, a new box will open up for merging the columns. When you choose this feature, a new box will open up for merging the columns. ठीक है, राइट क्लिक करना है कॉलम्स को सिलेक्ट करने के बाद और चूज करना है merge columns option. Then from the merge column drop down, my separator is fairly simple. I'll put custom and I'll put a dash. I'll put a dash. Custom choose करेंगे separator में because मुझे dash चाहिए. Dash यहाँ पे कहीं है नहीं, तो मैं custom choose करूंगा. यहाँ पे dash लिखूंगा, सिर्फ dash, no spaces, nothing, just a dash. And new column name will be order ID. I am doing it here only because अगर मैं यहाँ नहीं करूंगा तो मुझे बाद में करना पड़ेगा, तो और एक स्टेप ऐड हो जाएगा. अगर मैं यही करता हूँ तो इसी स्टेप में कॉलम कंबाइन भी हो जाएंगे और नया कॉलम का नाम रीनेम भी यही हो जाएगा. अदरवाइज यहाँ पे एक एडिशनल स्टेप आ जाएगा कॉल्ड रीनेम कॉलम 2. I don't want an extra step. Remember, we are working on a sample, like a structured case study. In the real world, we want to minimize the number of steps we do. We want to optimize, because the larger the number of steps, the more it will take time for you to refresh the data. Once you set this up, just press OK. ये तीनों कॉलम हट जाएंगे, आपके पास एक ही कॉलम होगा, which is order ID. कॉलम का नाम का स्पेलिंग ऐसे ही रखना है, क्योंकि दूसरे फाइल में ऐसा ही है स्पेलिंग. Just to quickly validate if you are correct. Yes. So order with a capital O space ID in uppercase. Space ID in uppercase. And press OK. And you will see that only one column remains now. So the three columns have been merged into one column, which is order ID. Which is order ID. अच्छा, एक चीज, my mistake this is. Let me just delete this step one time. Please come back on my screen. तो जिस कॉलम में आप, जिस ऑर्डर में आप कॉलम को चूज करते हो, वो इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. ठीक है. तो अगर आपने 1 2 3 को सीक्वेंस में नहीं चूज किया, तो वो गलत सीक्वेंस में कंबाइन करेगा. हमें ऑर्डर आईडी पार्ट 1 सिलेक्ट करना है, फिर पार्ट 2, फिर पार्ट 3. तो अगर आपने ये स्टेप कर लिया था और आपका कंबाइन हो चुका है, तो आप यहाँ पे आके बस इस स्टेप को डिलीट कर दीजिए. जो लास्ट वाला स्टेप है मर्ज कॉलम वाला, इसको डिलीट कर दीजिए. देन यू विल कम बैक टू 3 कॉलम्स. कंट्रोल प्रेस करके 1 2 और फिर 3 को चूज करना, फिर राइट क्लिक करना, फिर मर्ज पे जाना. देन सेपरेटर में कस्टम, just a dash, no space, nothing, and then rename it as order space ID with the uppercase and press OK. And now you will have them combined in the right order. You will be left with one column rather than 3 separate columns. Now, please complete this step. Now, the biggest advantage with Power Query is whatever steps you do get recorded. Secondly, your data is never lost. For example, अगर मुझे कल लगता है कि मुझे 3 अलग-अलग कॉलम में चाहिए ऑर्डर आईडी, तो I can always come back and click on the previous step and look at my data that was in that step, right? So your data is never lost, right? It is always remaining present here in all the previous steps. And whenever you want to up, जैसे मैं पिछले स्टेप में आके देख रहा हूँ, अब मुझे recent step पे आना है, तो मुझे कुछ नया ऐड करना है, तो I have to ensure I come on the recent step. So when you select it, highlight it in with this green column here and it's highlighted in gray, and then only you start with adding a new step. किसी भी पिछले स्टेप के बीच में आप नया स्टेप ऐड नहीं करोगे, it might break the sequence unless it is a logical addition or deletion. So you will always have step after the most recent step. If you want to add steps in between or remove steps from between, you have to identify if there is no dependency and then go ahead and do it, because otherwise it will break the entire query. Otherwise it will break the entire query. Query is nothing but the steps that we are writing. Okay. So you should have one column for order ID. Once you have this, please scroll to the right and you have city, state and country. Please scroll to the right and you have city, state and country. Now I want to split this into 3 separate columns. So I will right click on city, state, country, which is one column right now. And I will choose an option called split column. Right? I will choose an option called split column. And now here again, I have multiple options. Okay. In our case, only delimiter is required, but you can split by number of characters, by position. If a column has values that are in uppercase, lowercase, you can split them. You can separate digit and non-digit, or non-digit and digit. मतलब numbers और text को आप separate कर सकते हो, which again is not available in Excel. So हमारे केस में हमें delimiter choose करना है. Can you tell me what the delimiter is going to be in this case? अगर मुझे city, state, country को separate करना है, what do you think is going to be the delimiter? If I have to separate city, state, country,
Comma space.
Comma space, correct. So it will not just be a comma, it will be comma space. The reason is otherwise I'll have to trim it later, which I don't want to do. So I will right click, I will choose split column. I will choose by delimiter. Now here, you will have to again choose custom, because comma, you can either choose comma or space. So we'll have to come to custom. Yahan pe you will type a comma and literally put a space, right? So you will have two characters here, comma and space. You can decide if you want to split at which occurrence of the delimiter, यानी पहले occurrence पे या सिर्फ दूसरे occurrence पे, लेफ्ट मोस्ट या राइट मोस्ट. तो हमारे केस में आई वांट टू स्प्लिट एट ईच अकरेंस, यानी जहां पर भी कॉमा स्पेस अपीयर हो रहा है मुझे उस डिलिमिटर पे सेपरेट करना है, राइट. आफ्टर यू डू दिस, आफ्टर यू गो टू कस्टम एंड पुट अ कॉमा स्पेस इन दिस बॉक्स, this will be selected by default, which is each occurrence of the delimiter. You just have to press OK, and ये जो ओरिजिनल कॉलम है ये हट जाएगा और इसके बदले 3 नए कॉलम आपके पास आ जाएंगे. इसके बदले आपके पास 3 नए कॉलम आ जाएंगे. So when you press OK, you will see that 3 new columns are created. You will see that 3 new columns are created. Let me just look at the chat also. Yeah. You will see that 3 new columns are created. Now, once you see the 3 new columns, do you think there is any change required in these columns, or we can go ahead with the append now?
We need to change the names of the columns.
Correct. So we'll have to rename them.
City
So the first one will be, yeah. So the first one will be city. So to rename the column, you can just double click on the column name and you can rename it. Second one will be state. So double click and you can rename it. And the third one will be country. Right? Because when you append, which is stack data one below the other, depending on the column names, the case has to match, the column spelling has to match. Right? Sequence is irrelevant. Once you do this, I want you to save the changes in par query. So आप close and apply वाले drop down पे click करेंगे और सिर्फ apply choose करेंगे. Apply choose करने से अभी तक जो हमने steps किए हैं, they will be saved. Apply choose करने से अभी तक जो हमने steps किए हैं, they will be saved. Just click on apply. Under the close and apply drop down, just choose apply, and it will save all the steps that we have done so far. It will save all the steps that we have done so far. ठीक है, प्लीज रीच दिस पॉइंट एंड लेट मी नो. कुछ भी अगर आपको रिपीट करवाना है, प्लीज लेट मी नो. हैप्पी टू रिपीट द एग्जांपल एज वेल.
After this, can we go back again to the sales historical file and compare the column names?
Yeah. You can obviously you can switch between the tables here, like this.
And how did we get the list of column names?
Control G.
Control
on
G.
But it will show you list of columns for whatever query you're on. So अगर मैं sales historical पे हूँ and I press Control G, it will only show me columns from sales historical, not from any other query or table.
We'll take a screenshot and then compare.
You can compare. I mean, that is the ideal process, because see, generally remembering the number of columns, the name of columns becomes slightly complex. तो बार-बार switch करने से अच्छा है आप एक बार compare करके screenshot ले compare कर लो. जैसे sales current हमारे केस में change किया हमने. So I will just take a screenshot here and I will just populate it on the same PowerPoint. I'm going to delete this one, put it here. And now you should be able to compare that the column headings are exactly the same. Again, sequence is not important, like I said, right? This is, for example, here you will see that COGS is the second last column, and here COGS, which is cost of goods sold, is the last column, right? So that will not make a difference. Perfect. This is just one method. I mean, because there is no other method. या तो आप literally copy करो headings को, या Excel file में डालो. This is very seamless. You take a screenshot and compare. Yes. Now we'll come to the next step. So our objective is to create one large consolidated table. So what we will do is we will combine data from these two tables, sales historical query and sales current query को हम एक single query में combine करेंगे. ठीक है. Now उसके लिए हमें जो option choose करना है वो है append queries in Power BI. So what we have to do is we have to click on this button. You have to click on this home button, home tab. In the home tab towards the right, you have a group called combine. So दो type के combine होते हैं, append और merge. By looking at the icons, you should be able to figure out. Append is, like I mentioned, vertical, stacking more rows. Merge is like a VLOOKUP, adding values from a different table, मतलब adding more columns. A merge is like a VLOOKUP, and append is adding more rows. So merge is adding columns, append is adding more rows. हमें अभी करना है append. Now, before we do the append, what I want to do is in my sales historical, I have data for 3 years. Sales current, I have data for 1 year. So I want to put this data for 1 year into the sales historical file or table. So I will choose the sales historical query, and then I will come and choose append queries from here. Okay. Now append query में there are two options. You can append query and append query as new. इसका difference मैं बता देता हूँ आपको. Append queries will mean that data from sales current will be retrieved and put into sales historical. Sales current will no longer exist. When I say append queries as new, what it will do is it will create a third query where, so my original queries will remain as it is. It will create a third table which will have the combined data. Let me show you both of them. You don't have to do both. You just have a look first. So when I click on append query, it will ask me what I want to append. So I want to append two tables right now. I have already selected sales historical. So I just have to choose my second table, which is sales current. And when I click OK, right, the data will be appended. How do I know? Because here the step has been performed, right? And to validate, I can click on this drop down, click on load more, and see that data for 2014 is also visible here. The query does not disappear. That was a miss from my end. The query will remain as it is. It is just that new data will be populated here. Okay. This is what append will do, append queries will do. And just to show you what append queries as new will do, I am again on sales historical. I am in the home tab. I'm coming towards the right in the combine group. In the append queries dropdown, I'm choosing the second option, append queries as new. Right? Similar dialog box. First table is sales historical. Second table is sales current. I will click OK. And what this will do is it will create a third query for me called append one. तो हिस्टोरिकल में 3 साल का डेटा रहेगा, करंट में 1 साल का डेटा रहेगा. वो एक नया टेबल बनाता है मेरे लिए, which is called append one. तो हमारे केस में अभी we want to create a new table called append one. In our case, what we want to do is create a new table called append one. So you will go to sales historical, then you will go to home and append queries as new and choose the second option, append queries as new. Sorry. ठीक है. अपेंड क्वेरीज करने से क्या होता है, करंट क्वेरी में डेटा ऐड हो जाता है. अपेंड क्वेरीज न्यू करने से क्या होता है, करंट और जो दो सेपरेट क्वेरीज है वो एज इट इज रहती है, थर्ड क्वेरी क्रिएट हो जाती है. जो थर्ड क्वेरी क्रिएट हुई है उस पर राइट क्लिक कीजिए अपेंड वन पे, उसको रीनेम करना फैक्ट अंडरस्कोर सेल्स, उसको रीनेम करना फैक्ट अंडरस्कोर सेल्स. ये टर्म क्या है, वी विल डाइव इनटू इट लेटर. अभी के लिए जस्ट रीनेम इट एज फैक्ट अंडरस्कोर सेल्स. ठीक है. इन केस एनीवन हैज मिस्ड ऑन एनी स्टेप, अभी तक कोई भी स्टेप में आपको कंफ्यूजन है, प्लीज लेट मी नो. Tomorrow we'll be building on the same file, right? Over the course of the next few sessions. So you should not have any missed steps. I will also upload the solution in the same folder. So you can download that and have a look as well. But would recommend if you complete it during the class itself. So you have a hands-on experience. Let me know once you're done and you have a new query, which is append one, and you have renamed it as fact underscore sales. Also, just apply the changes so that whatever you've done so far is saved. And once you're done, now we will not be using sales current or historical to visualize data later. We'll be using fact underscore sales. Okay, we'll be using fact underscore sales. Perfect. Now what I want to do next is, now if I want to load any other data, a table or get more sources here, I don't have to exit Power Query. I can add data in Power Query directly by going to new source under home and choosing whatever I want, whatever source I want. In our case, now I want to load the category file, right? Which will be the last step for today. So in our case, I want to load the category file. So I will choose the Excel workbook option. I will choose the Excel workbook option and I will choose the category file. Under home, you have new sources. New source में आप click करेंगे, आपको Excel choose करना है. And then in your model folder, you have the category file. You will simply choose that. And you will press open. When you click on open, it will give you a small view that will allow you to choose the sheet. In our case, there is only one sheet. So you will have to check this. Just clicking will not work. You'll have to check the box for this sheet. You have to check the box for this sheet and then simply press OK. When you press OK, you will see that a new sheet, which is category, has been added here. A new query called category has been added here. And you can press OK. Once you do that, you will see that a new table is loaded here. इसको आप right click करके rename करेंगे dim underscore category. So any master table is also referred to as a dim or a dimension table. Fact is basically your transactional data. जहाँ पे आपको पता है records और add होते जाएंगे. Records is rows. More rows will keep on getting added. So more orders will come in. New orders will have different products that are being ordered within every order ID. New customers and all of the data will get added in fact sales. This is a master table because मेरे category subcategory change नहीं होंगे. If I introduce a new category, वो यहाँ आएगा, but मेरा category subcategory का mapping यही रहेगा, right? My category subcategory mapping will remain here itself. My category subcategory mapping will remain here itself. Right? Now there is some cleaning that we have to do here. Right? So we will do that cleaning and then we'll complete the example. If in Excel you have data like this, how will you clean it? अगर मुझे ये सारे जो values populate करने हैं, Excel में मैं क्या feature use करूंगा इसके लिए? What feature in Excel will I use? So in Excel, we will use the Control G feature to populate these values. Okay, I'll show that also in some time. But one more thing you will notice here is that my first row is not correctly populated because this should ideally be my heading. Now, what do you think is the reason that Power BI, Power Query has not been able to automatically identify the headings? In none of the earlier examples, right? In none of the earlier examples, was it not able to identify the heading correctly? Why is it so that here it is not able to identify the heading correctly? Can you think of a reason why? Why is
Maybe
category?
because this is a change in process when we import data from a folder path
Huh?
and or we import from an Excel file.
No, no, no. That does not make a difference. Good thought, but does not make a difference. I'll tell you the reason. If you look at the data in the column, for Power Query to understand that the first row is a header, there has to be a different data type in the column. For example, अगर मैं sales column की बात करूं, अगर मेरा first value sales है, like the text sales और बाकी सब number है, it identifies के first value is obviously going to be a header. अब यहाँ पे जबकि सब कुछ text है और यहाँ पे null है, so because the data type is same or inconsistent, it is not able to identify whether the first value is going to be a header or not, right? So that is the reason. If you look at any of the other files, let's say, let's take fact sales, for example. Okay. Let's say this column. Now in this entire table, there are only text columns as well, but there are other columns which are very categorically, the first row is going to be a header. So assuming that the first row is header in one column, it assumes that for the entire row and promotes the headers automatically. To do that same here, what we will have to do is we will have to come to home. Under home tab towards the right, we have an option called use first row as header. We will have to choose this option, and what it will do is it will promote the first row as our heading. ये वाला ऑप्शन आपको एक ही बार क्लिक करना है. It will promote the first row as your heading. Just give me a second.
किस दिन? अच्छा, मैं बरेली यार, उसमें आया था, मई जून में आया था बरेली. एक मिनट रुको भाई जरा.
Okay. Now that we have the category column here, now Excel में हम जनरली ये वाला स्ट्रक्चर फॉलो करते हैं, जहां पे फर्नीचर अगर मैंने यहाँ लिखा है, I assume that these three categories also fall, subcategories also fall under furniture itself. Okay. Now, if I want to populate them, because in Power Query, if I have to connect two tables, every row has to have furniture mapped against it. Every row under office supplies has to have office supplies mapped against it. Null नहीं हो सकता है row. So for us to populate this, you have to follow a very simple technique. You will right click on the column heading for category, and you will choose the fill option, and you will choose this option called fill down. You will right click on the column heading for category column. You will go to the fill option and choose fill down. You will choose fill down. You will choose fill down. You will choose fill down. What this will do is it will populate all the values accordingly. It will populate all the values accordingly. Now data इस format में आता क्यों है? System generate हो सकता है, manually collected हो सकता है, multiple reasons. So to clean it, you'll simply click on this option. Right click, fill and down. Yeah, sorry about that. So you can right click on the category column like I showed you, and you can choose the fill down option to populate the values. Okay. What this will do is it will populate all the values like you see on the screen. Now, once we are done with this table we will leave as it is. इसको हम मॉडलिंग में यूज करेंगे जब मैं फैक्ट सेल्स को और सब डायमेंशन कैटेगरी टेबल को कनेक्ट करूंगा यूजिंग द कॉमन कॉलम. ठीक है. तो फैक्ट सेल्स में अगर आप देखेंगे देयर इज अ कॉलम कॉल्ड subcategory somewhere here. There's a column called subcategory. Right. I will connect this table or this column with this column here. Right. In order to connect these two tables. Right. We'll have to create a relationship. We'll come to that in the next session. Now that we have this separate table, you can simply come on close and apply and choose close and apply for now. You can choose close and apply for now, and it will bring you back to Power BI. Now, once you are in Power BI, also save your Power BI file, but don't close it. We have one last step remaining. Save Power Query, save Power BI. आपके पास 4 टेबल होंगे, सेल्स हिस्टोरिकल, सेल्स करंट, फैक्ट सेल्स और डिम अंडरस्कोर कैटेगरी. सेल्स हिस्टोरिकल, सेल्स करंट हम यूज नहीं करेंगे विजुअलाइजेशन में बाद में, बट उनको हमें हटाना नहीं, उनको हम हाइड कर देंगे बाद में. अभी मुझे 2 टेबल्स के साथ काम करना है फॉर नाउ. फैक्ट सेल्स और डिम अंडरस्कोर कैटेगरी. Fact sales and dim underscore category. So once you come to Power BI, what I want you to do is in Power BI on the left hand side, ये फर्स्ट व्यू जो है आपका रिपोर्ट व्यू है. यहाँ पे आप विजुअलाइजेशन बिल्ड करोगे. ठीक है. आपको अभी आना है थर्ड व्यू में, विच इज द मॉडल व्यू. आपको भी आना है थर्ड व्यू में, विच इज द मॉडल व्यू, जहां पे मैं हावर कर रहा हूं अभी करंटली. दिस वन. व्हेन यू कम टू द मॉडल व्यू, यहाँ पे आपको सारे टेबल्स दिखाई देंगे. ठीक है. जो टेबल हमने लोड किए थे वो सारे टेबल आपको यहां विजिबल होंगे. अब पावर बीआई क्या करता है, बिटवीन टेबल्स वो रिलेशनशिप ऑटोमेटिकली बनाता है, विच वी विल नॉट वांट. ओके. सो सबसे पहले आपको क्या काम करना है, वंस यू कम टू मॉडल व्यू, योर सेल्स हिस्टोरिकल फोल्डर, व्हेन यू hover on top of it table, you will see this I symbol. You will click on it. It will hide the table. You will do the same thing from sales current. Okay, you will click on this I symbol and hide this table. It does not get hidden from the model, but report view में आप देखोगे यहाँ पे डेटा टैब में आपको नहीं दिखेगा, आपको सिर्फ 2 टेबल दिखेंगे. So in the model view, you will hide, click on this I symbol to hide sales historical and sales current. You should have the same view as me on your screen. Just do this step, everyone. Just hide sales historical and sales current, and then I'll show you the next step. Once you hide, ये जो लाइंस आपको दिख रही होंगी, अगर आपके इसमें बनी हुई लाइन, यानी जो लाइन सेल्स हिस्टोरिकल और सेल्स करंट से जुड़ी हुई है, जो भी लाइन है वो आप इन टेबल्स को ऊपर नीचे मूव कर सकते हैं. जो भी लाइन सेल्स करंट या हिस्टोरिकल में आ रही है, उस लाइन को आपको राइट क्लिक करना है और डिलीट करना है. any line that is touching the sales historical table, you will right click on that line and choose delete. And you will choose delete relationship. You will click yes. Similarly, any line that is touching the sales current folder, this line, you will right click on that line, choose delete and press yes. Okay. These two tables will not be used to create the visualization. We will use fact sales and you can minimize this and dimension category to create the visuals later on. Now, between these two tables, which is fact sales and dimension category, dim underscore category, you can see a relationship is already established. When you hover on top of that line, आपको दिखेगा dim underscore category में सब category highlight हो रहा है. यहाँ पे आप scroll करोगे. Let me just scroll down. I want to show subcategory here also. Now, when I hover on top of this line, you will see that in both the tables, subcategory is getting highlighted, subcategory column. So यहाँ पे we get introduced to concept of primary key and foreign key. Subcategory in the dim underscore category table is a primary key. मतलब for every row, there is only one unique subcategory. Subcategory is not repeating multiple times. But in my fact underscore sales table, subcategory might repeat multiple times because multiple transactions have happened. Different customers may have ordered different subcategories over a period of 4 years. Hence, subcategory can be repeated multiple times. Hence, the relationship and Power BI can create these relationships automatically. You can decide to delete and add them automatically on your own as well. But the relationship is to be read in such a way that जो one लिखा हुआ है वो one side of the relationship है और जो asterisk है वो many side of the relationship है. इसका मतलब क्या है? One मतलब यहाँ पे सब कैटेगरी जो है वो यूनिक है फॉर ईच रो, बट यहाँ पे many है यानी सब कैटेगरी मल्टीपल रोज में रिपीट हो रहा है. If there are 100 consumers who have ordered chair table, it will repeat for 100 rows. Why is it important to create a relationship? Because if I want to get category level information, category is only present in this table, and without the relationship, the tables are not linked. So if I want to get information at a category level, मुझे अगर sales चाहिए category level पे, अब मैं visual बना सकता हूँ, but जब तक ये link नहीं होंगे मैं visual create नहीं कर सकता हूँ category और sales का. It will not make any sense. ठीक है? ये जो line create हुई है, इसको आप delete कर सकते हो, just to show you how to add it again. और जब आपको रिलेशनशिप बनाना है तो उसके लिए बड़ा सिंपल प्रोसेस है. आपका जो प्राइमरी की है आपके डायमेंशन टेबल में, प्राइमरी की इज नथिंग बट द कॉलम दैट इज कॉमन इन बोथ द टेबल. सब कैटेगरी इज द प्राइमरी की हियर. इन द अदर टेबल इट बिकम्स द फॉरेन की. ओके, you will just drag subcategory and drop it on top of subcategory in fact underscore sales like this. When you do that, this small box will open. आपका from table दिखाएगा कि आपका रिलेशनशिप कहां से शुरू हो रहा है, किस टेबल तक जा रहा है. तो मेरा रिलेशनशिप dim underscore category से शुरू हो रहा है with subcategory as the column. It is going to the fact sales table with subcategory as the column. Cardinality मतलब what is the type of relationship? We have discussed already. It is a one-to-many relationship. This is the most common type of relationship. Cross filter direction में अभी आप मत जाइए. By default वो single है, उसे single ही रहने दीजिए. And you will simply click on save in case you want to create the relationship without after deleting. Okay. And you hover on top of it, it will show you that the relationship exists between subcategory in dimension and dim underscore category, which is the primary key, and fact underscore sales subcategory, which is the foreign key. Generally, primary key जो एक टेबल में होता है वही कॉलम दूसरे टेबल में foreign key कहला जाएगा. That is how you approach this concept. ठीक है? So you will delete any relationship that exists with sales historical and sales current. The only relationship that will exist on your sheet in your model view is between fact sales and dim category. It will be a one-to-many relationship flowing from dim category to fact sales. How do I know the flow? Because of this arrow. So the relationship is flowing from dim category to fact sales. Right? The order is also important. So I've not done anything. I've just deleted any relationship that existed with sales current and sales historical. And I've ensured that only one relationship exists on this model view, which is between dim underscore category and fact underscore sales. Once you do that, you can click on save. Just let me know once you finish this exam. I hope you were able to follow through. There's a lot of theory that I'm sharing, but that theory is important for you to understand because Power BI, to work with Power BI, you need to have a lot of conceptual clarity. I recently cleared my PL 300 exam, which is the official certification for Power BI, and the exam was fairly difficult. And I was only able to clear that exam because I had read every documentation available for Power BI preparation on the Microsoft official website. तो काम करना अलग है, एग्जाम अगर आपको क्लियर करना है, you want to get certified for Power BI through Microsoft, that is the only official certification, you will have to read a lot of documentation. And the documentation talks about these theories itself, which I'm sharing with you, right? Obviously, there's a lot of additional stuff which we will come to later, but I hope you are able to follow through with everything that we have covered for today, right? Just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat if you've done everything till this point. If you're doing the last part, that is okay. Please complete this part as well. And let me know once you're done with this part. Anyone wants to share their screen, ask any questions, anything else, please let me know. Please remember to save your Power BI file. I'll also upload the solution file in the same folder, but you also do it on your end. Thanks, Kashif, for the confirmation. Okay. I hope the others were also able to follow through. Iqbal, Bilal, Farhan. Perfect. So we'll wind up today's session here. Perfect. Thank you, Iqbal and Farhan. We'll wind up today's session here. Please save the file. कल हम इसी फाइल से कंटिन्यू करेंगे. हमारा नेक्स्ट पॉइंट ऑफ एक्शन होगा टू add data from the discount folder, which we have in discount file, and discount file requires some cleaning as well. So we'll come to the concepts of how to clean data in Power Query, why it is important to clean data, इस टेबल को as it is में क्यों Power BI में नहीं ले जा सकता हूँ. So we'll address those concepts, and then we have to build a few formulas and calculations. We will do that, and that will lead us towards the end of the activity. Then we will start with visualization. And after visualization, the last part that we're going to touch upon is going to be time intelligence calculations, DAX in Power BI. Right? Because Power BI में अगर आपको formula लिखना है, which is very important, तो आपको उसके लिए DAX use करना पड़ता है. ठीक है? तो DAX कैसे use करते हैं, क्या तरीका है, कैसे use करना है, उसके basics मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा. ठीक है? Basic functions, so that you have at least a starting point. Okay? I'm just going to close this. I have saved my Power BI file. I'm going to close my Power BI file as well. I'm going to stop presenting. I am going to end the recording now. Thank you for joining, everyone. I will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Thank you.